Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ivana and I'm a bookworm, and today I'm here to share with you an international book haul. Now, international book haul makes it sound like I traveled the world and bought books from all over, but really what I realized recently is that I have been checking books out from the library and getting books for my birthday, or asking for books for my birthday that are written by authors that were not born in the United States, which is really exciting for me. I feel like I've been doing it subconsciously and also intentionally. I am doing the Boston Public Library's Read the World Challenge, which essentially is asking people to read books from authors that were born in different parts of the world. The 6 regions are Africa, Oceania, the Middle East, the Americas, Europe, and Asia. It comes with a little booklet where you can actually write down the books that you plan on reading or the books that you've read so you can keep track of them. They're gonna do a random raffle drawing and the winner is going to get a $20 gift card to the indie bookstore of their choice. I think it's really sweet. I always participate in challenges like this because I think they're worthwhile. I think that I've just been training my brain since the start of the year to seek out books that were written by non-United Statesian authors. I'm gonna share with you books that I've recently bought or checked out from the library, and we're gonna get started with Africa. Now, obviously, Africa is not a country, it is a continent, and this book is from Nigeria, and it is Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. And this book follows a married couple that has decided that they do not want to engage in polygamy. And the problem is that they've been married for a lot of time, and their in-laws are getting impatient because the couple has not gotten pregnant. It seems to me like the wife in the marriage, Yejide, is going to go through extreme means to get pregnant. Now, I don't know what that means, but it sounds really exciting and intriguing. I genuinely don't know if this is a thriller or if it is a literary fiction or if it's soapy, but it sounds twisty and it sounds interesting. Lately, I've been reading books about motherhood that focus on the ambivalence of motherhood, or people who don't want to be mothers, and so I think it will be interesting to read a book where the woman actually wants to have a child or taking on a different perspective. And this one, I believe, is also historical fiction. It follows Nigeria in the 80s all the way up until the present, I believe. I just want to learn more about Nigerian history. Another reason I picked this book up is because a bookstagrammer that I follow and trust, afrobookricua, recommended it. I also think that in the back it says that the writing is unpretentious, and I am all for unpretentious writing. So that is my book from Africa. I forgot to add a disclaimer. I might say the wrong thing because I haven't read these books, so please feel free to correct me, or if it will spoil the book, just don't tell me. Thanks. The next book I picked up was for Oceania. I don't know how to say it, but this book is from New Zealand. It is written by Tayi Tibble. It is called Poukahangatus, and it is a poetry collection. I have recently become a poetry girly. I've participated in something called the Seeley Challenge for the past 2 years, and it is a challenge created by poet Nicole Seeley, asking people to read a poetry book every day in the month of August. I was successful last year, and it has kind of demystified poetry for me, but I'm still a little bit anxious about poetry, and I figured this year I might not be able to fully complete the Seeley Challenge, but I want to be intentional about at least reading one poetry collection every month. Tayi Tibble is an indigenous poet who is in her 20s, probably her late 20s, and she explores issues of Greek mythology, her Maori culture, New Zealand culture. Apparently she mentions the Kardashians and Twilight and sugar daddies. So this sounds like a fun time, but also modern. I think oftentimes when people talk about indigenous folks, they talk about them as though they don't exist anymore. Tayi Tibble is here to let you know that that is not true. I also love that this is blurred by Joy Harjo, who is a great poet, and it sounds like this book is also good for 20-somethings trying to find their way. Now I'm past that. I'm in my 30s. I still feel like I can get something out of this, because don't we all feel a little bit lost sometimes? So the next region we're looking at is the Middle East, and for the Middle East I have chosen 2 books that I might read. I think eventually by the end of the year I will read them, but for February I want to choose at least one of these 2 books, and they're both from Palestinian authors. The first one is Mornings in Jenin by Susan Abulhawa. I loved Susan Abulhawa's book, Against the Loveless World. It follows a Palestinian freedom fighter, revolutionary, who is in an Israeli confinement cell, and she is just recounting the story of her life and how she came to be there. I love books that focus on resistance, especially the resistance of oppressed peoples. I am interested in books about Palestine. I love when books touch on resistance on the face of settler colonial oppression. So that one is Against a Loveless World, which is one of my favorite books, and I strongly recommend it. I have it on my shelf. I normally give books away after I'm done with them, but that one I just like need to revisit because it was so beautiful. But this one is Mornings in Jenin, and it is a multi-generational story, and it follows two Palestinian brothers, one who converts to Judaism and one who ends up with bombs strapped to his middle, is what it says on the blurb. I'm so curious about what this is about, and it seems really nuanced. It seems really heavy as well, and it's all about longing for a lost home, a home that doesn't exist anymore. I also think that there's a woman in the story, maybe the woman who tells the story. She's born into a refugee camp in Kuwait after Palestine is occupied, and I'm just curious to learn more about the history. It seems really gut-wrenching. I don't know if I'm in the right mental state to read this one right now, but I am just looking forward to reading this one. I've heard so many great things from bookstagrammers, and this one for sure, even if I don't finish it in February, I do want to read it by the end of the year. The other Palestinian book I actually don't physically have. I'm getting it from Libby, and it's gonna go into my Kindle. I love that there are apps like Libby that will deliver library books to your Kindle so you don't have to buy them from evil corporations. And the book is, I'm gonna put it right here, You Exist Too Much by Zaina Arafat. And it is about a Palestinian United Statesian girl who is queer, and apparently upon coming out to her mother tells her, you exist too much. I think that that is a sentiment that many people can relate to, or many women and femmes can relate to, being told that you're too much, or being told that you're too dramatic, or that you take up too much space. This book also apparently deals with a love addiction and getting treatment for that. It just seems really juicy, and it is, I believe, under 200 pages. So that is one that I'm probably gonna end up reading next because I'm in the mood for something juicy. The next region is the Americas, and for the Americas, I want to reiterate, this is a pet peeve of mine when people call the United States America, right? The Americas is a region comprised of 35 countries, etc. Mexico is part of North America, right? The book that I got, and this one I purchased myself because it's beautiful. It's a classic. It's a Mexican classic called Pedro, Páramo by Juan Rulfo. And this one, I'm not too sure of what it is about. I know that it is tiny, and I also know that it is beloved by many people. I think it's a magical realist story about a boy or a man whose mom is dying, and she exhorts him to go back to his father, Pedro Páramo's town, to find him. And I think it's there he sees like spirits or something. It seems really spooky. I love this cover. I think it deals with like searching for your heritage, confusing hallucinations with the real thing. I love a good unreliable narrator, so maybe there's a little bit of that. I think it's a shame that I was never taught this in high school or beyond. I am really looking forward to this one. The next region I have so many books for. It is Europe, and all the books I got are French, so I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible. The first book that I got from France is this little cutie Thieves by Lucie Bryon. It is about a girl or a creature who is queer, and she is obsessed, or she has a crush on this other girl or creature, and she's a high schooler, I believe, and she wakes up one day after a rager, and she's covered in all these trinkets that she happened to steal from the mansion that she was having a party at, and she's visited by her crush who happens to live in that mansion and happens to be filthy rich. The girl is like, what am I gonna do? I stole all this shit from this house. What am I gonna do to rectify that? And that's all I know. But it's really cute. I always like to show like the art. Look at that, they're trapped in the closet. Kind of on the nose, right? But it just seems really cute. I think one thing I realized about graphic novels that seems really obvious but it wasn't obvious to me is if I don't like the art, I'm not gonna like the book. It can have the best story in the world, but if I'm not digging the art, if the art doesn't look high quality, I'm not gonna read it. Whenever any creator shows a graphic novel, they're doing people a disservice if they don't show the inside because sometimes I have checked books out because people have recommended them, and then I go grab my holds and I'm like, what is this? This is so ugly. But again, art is subjective. I don't want to be too rude. Maybe a little bit rude. The next set of books are by Ernaux. I normally don't go hard on books, but I feel like these books are the kinds of books that I would personally want to write all over. I talked about The Possession on my last video and I decided to buy it. I'm gonna reread it so I can mark it up, I can tab it, I can go back to it. I just want to say a little bit about Ernaux. I've been listening to podcasts about her. Here's what I've learned. She's French. She won the Nobel Prize last year for literature. She considers herself to be an ethnographer of her life. She is a sociologist, right? What she does is she looks at, and again, don't quote me on this, but this is what I remember listening to from the podcast. She goes back to defining moments in her life, particularly moments that brought her shame. And she goes back and she recounts them years later with so much lucidity. Like, she is just so crisp in her writing and so honest and so raw. And she brings her wisdom and her perspective into all of the things that happened to her in the past. Particularly moments, like I said, of shame, but also of madness, of when she's been overcome with passion. What I know about her too is that she blurs the line between fiction and nonfiction. Her books kind of read like novels, even though they, for the most part, are books about her life or are memoirs. And I don't even think that it's necessarily, at least The Possession wasn't necessarily told in a narrative form, but it just feels like a character. Her story seems eerily familiar. The two defining moments I believe she writes about a lot are, number one, apparently her dad tried to kill her mom when Annie was younger and with an axe, and she intervened. And the second one was her abortion. She had an abortion, I believe, in her 20s, and it was when abortion was illegal in France. I think that she really talks very candidly about those things. I adore her writing style. I also love that her books are all tiny for the most part. I'm just gonna go really quickly through each one. So The Possession, I've talked about it before. It's about a woman leaving her husband and becoming possessed with or obsessed with the woman that he is now seeing. Happening has to do with her abortion. She recounts it like 40 years after it happened, and it's very raw and unflinching. A Girl's Story, I believe, is kind of the story behind Simple Passion, which is her other most famous, I think it's her most famous book. Essentially, she has an affair with a diplomat, and it's kind of, this is all about the aftermath. Like, what does she do without a man? Like, how does she submit her will to a man? How does she feel so bereft now that he's gone? Simple Passion is super tiny but packs a punch, and it's about giving in to your simple or your pure passions. Also, how beautiful are these covers by 7 Stories Press? I love them. And then the last one, I believe, is the story of her father. She has, I believe, the books that have been translated to English, there's like 11 of them, maybe. I love these covers. I would love to read Annie Ernaux in Spanish, because it doesn't really matter what language you read her in. She originally wrote them in French, but I feel like reading her in Spanish would be really powerful as well. But the covers in Spanish look like The Sims, and not in a good way. So we are on to the last region, and the last region is Asia. I have a book from Japan and a book from China. They are both graphic novels. The book from Japan is Dissolving Classroom by Junji Ito. He is a master of horror. This is a manga. There's a really creepy toy here that I want to show you. Here it is. And it just looks like a romp. It looks really fun. And it follows 2 siblings, which might be these guys. And one of them is obsessed with the devil, and the other one is apparently the most annoying little sister on the planet. It seems really funny. It seems really wacky. It seems really scary and spooky, and it's just what I wanted. And then the last book I have wasn't even available in my library. It is called Udon Noodle Soup, Little Tales for Little Things. I've been having a hard time this winter, and this little book from China I think might make me feel better. It is super cute. I think it's a take on Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's little tales about relationships that will hopefully make you feel better. I love that the art is in like watercolor. The reviews that I saw online were not the best, but I feel like people are haters, and I think that this might just be like a little slice of life book that might make me just feel better. I might actually save this for the Sunday before school starts, so I can fight my Sunday scaries with a book that will go down like nice hot tea. So this is it. These are my international books. I hope you enjoyed this haul, and I hope to see you again Please let me know if you've read any of these or if you recommend any other international books. I particularly am interested in graphic novels that are international, so let me know. I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace.